My husband locked me and the kids out and moved his girlfriend into our house, into my kids' rooms. What happened next is something he would never forget. My name is Carrie, 29. I'm a mom of 2. I got a shock of my life as I got off the bus with my kids, my keys jingling in my hand, a familiar rhythm I'd relied on for years. But when I slid the key into the lock, nothing. Not even a click. I tried again. Still nothing. My brow furrowed. No, I muttered. It has to be the key, right? I crouched slightly, peeking through the curtains, just to check if maybe I'd made a mistake. And then I saw her, sitting in my chair, wearing my robe, stirring coffee in my favorite mug, the one I'd defended from my mother's cabinets when she visited last Christmas. My heart didn't pound. My stomach didn't twist. I just froze. Who is that? I whispered to myself, leaning closer. The face was familiar. Too familiar. No, it can't be. I only had a small glass of wine this morning. I'm not hallucinating, right? Outside, the kids were waiting, confused, pressing their little faces against the glass. I wanted to call out to them. I wanted to scoop them up and disappear. But I stayed still, drinking in the scene, noting every detail. Her casual ease, the way she cradled the mug, the small smirk curling at the corner of her mouth like she owned the place. And in that moment, disbelief hit me like ice water. Is this my house? I gritted my teeth, shaking my head slightly. My keys still didn't work. My door was locked. My children were on the wrong side of that glass, staring up at a woman who had no right to be there. I took a step back, not from fear, from calculation. I had to think. I had to plan. But first, I had to process the audacity of it all. She's wearing my robe, drinking from my mug in my house, while my children watch. A bitter, cold chuckle escaped me, quiet, almost imperceptible. Oh, this is going to be interesting. I fumbled with my phone, my fingers trembling slightly, not from fear, but from barely contained anger. I dialed his number. He answered immediately. Hello. It's me, Carrie. There was a pause on the other end, then his calm, smooth voice. Carrie, you don't live here anymore. I froze. Excuse me? I said, you and the kids don't live here. That's it. I blinked, straining my ears. I could hear him upstairs, faintly through the window, laughing with her, the casual sound of him moving around like the house had always been theirs. What about the kids? I asked, my voice low but sharp. They'll adapt. They're fine, he said. Calm, smooth, vile. I swallowed. My anger started to simmer, threatening to boil over. Did she know you were married? I asked, letting my voice carry just enough for him to hear the weight. She knew you were married, didn't she? He paused, a laugh. Of course she knew. Look, I started seeing her because, well, you were distant. You didn't care anymore. I needed attention. I needed someone who made me feel alive. That's all. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone, to storm into the house right then. But I stayed calm. I had to. Attention? I said, my voice cold. You threw away our home, our family, for attention? He chuckled lightly. It's not like that. You just never saw it. I pressed my lips together, biting back words that could make me lose control. The kids were outside, waiting, innocent and confused, and I realized he wasn't just dismissing me. He was underestimating me. That was when it hit me. This wasn't betrayal. This was a challenge, and I don't lose. I didn't argue with him after that. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I hung up, and standing there, keys useless in my hand, kids staring at me for answers I couldn't give yet, I let the truth line itself up. Clean, chronological, ugly. Our marriage was not over. No separation, no paperwork, no, we're figuring things out. The affair wasn't new either. It hadn't just started. It had been going on for a long time. Long enough that timelines stopped making sense. Long enough that I could count back and realize something that made my stomach go cold. He was cheating while I was pregnant. Not emotionally distant, not confused, actively cheating. And yes, she knew. She knew he was married. She knew he had children. She knew I existed. Here's another fact. When I asked him for money for school supplies, he said things were tight. When I asked for help with groceries, he sighed like it was a burden. When I mentioned childcare costs, he told me to manage better. But somehow, there was always money for her. New clothes, takeaways, day trips, comfort, plenty of money, just not for his kids. And standing there outside my own house, listening to his voice float down from the upstairs window, like nothing had changed, I understood something very important. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was a decision. And once you see it that clearly, you stop reacting. You start planning. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I didn't demand to be let in. I picked up my bag. I took my kids' hands, one on each side, and we walked away from the house that still had my name on the paperwork. The bus ride to my mother's place was quiet. Too quiet. The kids didn't ask questions. They just leaned into me, tired and confused, trusting me to know what to do next. I stared out the window, watching familiar streets slide past, feeling something heavy settle into place. Not grief, not panic, clarity. That night, after they were fed, bathed, and asleep in borrowed beds, I sat alone in the dark and replayed everything. The robe, the mug, his voice upstairs, the calm way he told me I no longer belonged. And that's when it hit me. Crying wouldn't fix this. Begging wouldn't fix this. Explaining myself wouldn't fix this. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't done. I didn't go back inside. Not yet. Instead, I watched. Every evening for a week, after I dropped the kids at my mom's and told her I needed air, I stood across the street, half hidden behind parked cars and low hedges, and I watched my life get dismantled in real time. The girlfriend wasted no time. Curtains changed first, then cushions, then the rug in the living room, rolled up and dragged out like it had offended her personally. My photos disappeared. My kids' drawings vanished from the fridge. Even the small things. The candle I always lit in the evenings. The throw blanket I'd had since university. Gone. It was surgical, efficient, like I'd never existed. Delivery vans started showing up, one after the other, boxes, furniture, flat-pack dreams. And him? Suddenly he was generous, painfully so. The same man who'd sighed and rubbed his temples when I asked for help with school supplies. The same man who'd said, "Now isn't the right time," when I asked for a car, pregnant, managing a toddler, hauling groceries and children on buses like it was a character-building exercise. Now he carried bags in with a smile. A new sofa appeared. A coffee machine I'd shown him months ago. Too expensive, he'd said then. And then the car. I watched him hand her the keys one evening, laughing, proud. She squealed, threw her arms around his neck, kissed him like she'd won something. A brand new car. I stood there on the pavement, arms crossed, thinking of rainy mornings at bus stops, of swollen ankles, of a toddler on one hip and shopping bags cutting into my fingers. Same man, same money, different woman. That's when I stopped feeling hurt. That's when something else took over. Because while they were busy erasing me, they forgot one small detail. I knew that house better than anyone, and I was done watching. The moment didn't come with fireworks. It was quiet. I was across the street again when it happened, pretending to scroll on my phone, when I heard laughter spill out through an open window. Her laugh, light, carefree, like nothing bad had ever happened in that house. I looked up. They were in what used to be my son's room. I recognized it instantly, not because of the walls, but because of the window. Same angle, same view. But the room was different now. No toys, no small bed, no nightlight. Just a sleek desk, a lamp, and a mirror she was adjusting, tilting her head as she admired herself. My husband stood behind her, hands on her waist, smiling like this was a fresh start. And that's when it happened. Something went quiet in me, not numb, not broken, focused. The ache in my chest didn't explode. It evaporated. The questions stopped. The why stopped. Even the anger softened into something colder, sharper. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't hoping for apologies or explanations. I understood exactly what this was. He hadn't replaced me because I failed. He replaced me because he could. And standing there, watching them laugh in a room that still smelled faintly like my children, I realized something else too. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was deciding. And once I made that decision, there was no going back. Once I stopped reacting, patterns started showing themselves. They were predictable. Every evening around the same time, they left together. Quick kisses, car doors slamming, music already playing as they drove off, dinners out, new routines, a couple enjoying the illusion of safety. That's when I noticed it. The spare key, not hidden, just careless, tucked behind the loose brick near the back step, the same one I used to joke about when we first moved in. One day someone's going to find this, I'd said. Apparently, that someone was still me. They felt safe. Too safe. Safe enough to leave windows cracked. Safe enough to laugh loudly. Safe enough to believe that once I walked away, I disappeared. I watched them long enough to know exactly when I could move. And as I stood there, memorizing every habit, every blind spot, one thought settled comfortably in my mind. They thought the house had forgotten me. The next evening, I knew they would be gone. Quiet streets, empty driveways, perfect timing. I spent hours in my kitchen. Prawns, fresh, plump, carefully cleaned. I marinated them slowly, letting garlic, ginger, and every pungent spice I could find mingle, building a scent that demanded attention. I garnished it meticulously, each layer a subtle message. You thought you could erase me. Think again. Revenge, I reminded myself with a quiet smile, takes time to dish. When it was ready, I packed my fragrant arsenal carefully, savoring the anticipation of what was to come. Every step was deliberate, every movement measured, and then, keys jingling in my hand, the same keys that had betrayed me weeks ago. I let myself in. The air was warm, familiar. The faint smell of coffee lingered, mixed with the faint tang of something new. Candles, polish, pretensions. And yet, it didn't matter. The house still felt like mine. The living room, the hallways, the stairs. Everything whispered memories, my children's laughter bouncing off the walls, the small scuff on the kitchen floor from my toddler, the angle of the couch where I always sat reading. Their attempts to erase me failed, emotionally at least. I walked slowly from room to room, touching surfaces lightly just to remind myself. Ownership isn't paperwork. It isn't contracts or signatures or polite legal language. It's memory. And this house, it remembered me. I didn't do anything yet. No drama, no sabotage, just presence. And as I stood there quietly, letting the silence settle, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I was home, and they wouldn't realize it. I placed my surprise in vents, hollow curtain rods, tucked into corners where their eyes would never wander. A quiet, invisible rebellion. I didn't need to break anything. I didn't need to shout. I didn't even need to see the results yet. The house would do that. And I, standing there, with the scent of garlic and ginger in my hands, and the memory of every moment I'd spent within these walls, felt something simple, pure, and fierce. Joy. The kind of joy that comes from knowing the next move is yours alone. It started faintly, barely noticeable. Something off. At first, they blamed each other. "Did you leave something in the fridge?" she asked him, nose wrinkling. "No, not me," he replied, clearly annoyed, clearly trying not to show he was rattled. Windows started staying open all day, even when the winter wind bit. Candles flickered on every surface. Incense burned like ritual. Cleaning supplies piled up in the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room. And still, the smell lingered. It spread in corners. It hid in vents. It clung to the rugs, the walls, the furniture. Guests started noticing. "Oh, is that maybe the drain? I don't know, but it's different." Embarrassment grew. Arguments bubbled over. "I don't know what you did." "I didn't do anything. It's you. You brought it in." No one suspected me. I watched from afar, leaning against my usual corner, sipping my tea, amused. Every frustrated gesture, every wrinkled nose, every hurried scrub. Delicious. They thought they had erased me. They thought they controlled the house. But every second, every failed attempt to fix the problem, it was my presence echoing in ways they would never see. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. This was only the beginning. By the second week, it was no longer just a smell. It was their problem now. She started noticing things, little things. "Did you move that?" she asked him one morning, pointing at the rug she'd laid out herself. "No, I didn't touch it," he said, frowning. She rolled her eyes, but the doubt had already taken root. "Something's wrong with this house," she whispered one night. "I don't like it here. It feels off." She started accusing him of negligence, of carelessness, of leaving things out. "You did this," she said, frustration cracking her voice. "I know you did." He rolled his eyes at first, annoyed, then confused. "I didn't touch anything," he muttered. The house became tense. The laughter faded. The casual ease vanished. Every corner seemed wrong to her now. Every smell, every scuff, every creak became evidence of sabotage. And the best part? They never suspected me, not once. I watched from my vantage point across the street, a quiet observer, smiling to myself. Power is subtle. Power is invisible. And I had it. By the third week, the house had become a battlefield they didn't even know existed. Professionals came and went. Air fresheners, cleaners, contractors, all failed. Money flew out the window. Literally, new candles, new rugs, new specialists. Nothing worked. The house, it became unlivable. Guests stopped coming. Friends whispered excuses. Even delivery people hesitated, wrinkling their noses as they dropped off packages. The relationships started cracking too. Arguments over trivial things. Arguments over imagined things. "It's you. You're crazy." "No, it's you." He tried to fix it. She tried to fix it. They were blind to the truth. The problem wasn't the house. The house was honest with everyone except them, I thought, watching from my usual spot. Who knew they'd last this long? They couldn't cope anymore. The smell had stopped being a nuisance and started feeling like a curse. Arguments filled the house now. A loud, ugly, exhausting. Accusations bounced off the walls like shrapnel. She was the first to break. "This isn't what I signed up for," she snapped one night, her voice sharp with panic. "I can't live like this." He tried to calm her, tried to reason, tried to pretend he was still in control. She laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "There's something wrong with you," she said. "And there's something wrong with this house." She grabbed her bag, shaking, furious. "I'm done. Don't call me. Don't message me. I don't want anything to do with you ever again." At the door, she paused, eyes wild. "I swear," she said, "you and this house are cursed." And then she was gone. I heard every word, because I was listening. After she left, he unraveled. For 2 days straight, he paced the house like a trapped animal, drinking alcohol straight from the bottle, sleeping in fragments, replaying conversations out loud. I heard him curse her, curse himself, curse the walls. Then came the call. He rang his agent. "Just sell it," he said, voice cracked, defeated. "I don't care how. I just need it gone." Viewings were scheduled. People came and left fast. On open day, I watched from afar as potential buyers stepped inside, only to reappear moments later with hands clamped over their faces. Some gagged. One coughed violently on the pavement. Another shook their head, whispering something to the agent before practically running to their car. The agent tried everything. Nothing worked. Eventually, there was one offer. Low, embarrassingly low. The agent hesitated. He didn't. "Take it," he said. "I don't have a choice." Weeks later, I walked through the front door again, this time with my children. Our house. Their rooms waited for them, untouched by fear now. Quiet. Safe. Home. They never knew. They never knew that I was the buyer. They never knew I'd placed that low offer and watched it get accepted. They never knew that every argument, every breakdown, every whispered panic had been carried straight to me through the mic I'd planted, and later removed with calm, careful hands. The smell wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I never stopped listening. The kids ran through their rooms, laughter echoing off the walls, cozy beds, familiar toys, the small chaos of home, finally ours again. I walked quietly behind them, letting it sink in. Keys in my hand, papers signed, the divorce filed, full custody granted. Every detail was mine, legally and finally. The house had remembered me when they had tried to erase me. And I? I had remembered every slight, every betrayal, every lie. Some houses rot when you betray the wrong woman. Some men lose everything because they thought the world was theirs to play with. I closed the front door behind me, my children by my side, and smiled. They tried to erase me. The house disagreed.